And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, founder of Mystery and Thriller Ravens, here with my brand new collab with Murder by the Book to welcome the incredible Taylor Adams, who's here to tell us about his brand new book, Hairpin Bridge. Taylor, welcome and welcome back. Tell us about this fabulous book.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. So Hairpin Bridge is about a young woman who is determined to prove that her twin sister's suicide was actually a murder by confronting the man she believes is responsible herself. And the only problem is, that man is the cop who allegedly found her sister's body under a derelict bridge way out in rural Montana. And so Lena, the protagonist, she arranges a meeting with that cop there on that same remote bridge. And it starts as an interview, but it gets a little bit becomes more of an interrogation. And as her questions get more pointed, what she learns puts her twin sister's final hours into focus and her own life into really immediate danger. But she also has a plan for that as well. So it's kind of part mystery, part thriller, part kind of very contained thriller. I'd call it a locked room thriller, except they're not in a locked room, they're on a bridge. But yeah, it's a lot of fun kind of storytelling devices that I had. I learned a lot when I was writing No Exit, my last one, and there was a lot of just fun stuff that I really wanted to try that I got to try with this one.
Ooh, well, Taylor, we're going to need to know every single trick you tried, why, how, and something you never told us before. And I can't wait to get into every single detail of it, as well as your incredible reviews that this book is earning. But first, I just want to welcome all of our mystery and thriller friends who are watching on Facebook, who are watching on YouTube, who are watching in Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have you here. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you've never been here before, welcome. We're so happy to have you. We are excited to have you. And here's how it works. Every week, I give you 2 featured authors that I have handpicked, and you get to ask them anything. So I run this as a super collaborative conversation. So any questions that you have, just get them going in the comments. I'll get them right over to Taylor, and he will answer anything you're wondering about his book, his writing process, Lena, Cambry, the bridge, Montana. We got a lot of questions and a little bit of time. So get those questions going. Gail is saying, hi, Sarah, week 2 and counting. Gail, yay. Top community member. Great to have you. Week 2 and feeling fabulous. Great to have you. Let us know what questions you have for Taylor. Kelly saying, hello, everyone. Hey, Kelly, welcome. Good to have you. We're so excited you're here. And y'all, I got a lot of questions for Taylor. So Taylor, let's dive right in. Tell us about some of those things that you wanted to try. What were they and how'd you do it?
So I think right from the get-go, No Exit is a very linear story because it's about people stuck in a confined location and, the night kind of goes on. And I wanted to move past that and try something that was more about like unraveling a mystery, but where there's 2 points of view and possibly more. And so we've got kind of like a dual timeline structure where we've got the main character solving a mystery and we're learning alongside her from somebody who may or may not be truthful with her. And then also seeing the past event kind of reconstructed through her twin sister's eyes, running parallel. And so it's like we're seeing it at the same time that the main character is learning it, but there are divergences that we start to notice. And we start to question, because that's the other thing that I wanted to try. And I was very, very terrified to try it. And it remained like a big fear throughout the whole writing process and even the whole editing process. And I remember asking my editor, like, does this work? Am I allowed to do this? An unreliable narrator. That's a really cool device, a really cool element, but totally easy to just shoot yourself in the foot because it's such a, you're kind of breaking your promises a little bit with the reader sometimes with an unreliable narrator, and that's the whole point. And so it's like you have to know the rules and know the effect you're going for to really execute it. And I was very paranoid that I was just going to biff it on this one. That was a brand new tool that I got to play with and got to use. And, I've kind of added it to my toolbox. And so my next book is also going to have a little bit of a different kind of an unreliable narrator. But let's see, what else? I think, the 2 big things were the structure and the and the nonlinear and the unreliable narrator. Those were the two big things that I wanted to do in No Exit, but really couldn't just because of the limitations of the story. And then I just kind of went hog wild on this one.
Well, hog wild is our favorite wild when it comes to Taylor Adams books. So thank you for going hog wild, Taylor. That is amazing. And this book is pretty wild, y'all. Pretty wild. So Andrea, welcome. Good to have you here. She's saying No Exit was super scary. I will be forever afraid to stop at an exit in Colorado. Andrea, you and me both. I mean, those roadside exits are a little scary anyway. You're always looking around the deserted parking lot, like, rushing over to the restroom and then running back to your car. But now I think now we're even more scared. Thanks to Andrea. Good point, Andrea. Let us know what coping mechanisms are you working with there now that whenever you have to pull over. Josie saying, "Oh, I just saw someone else suggest this book. You know what they say, Josie? It's a sign." And she said, "I'll definitely have to get to it now. P.S. I knew you through yoga in Boston. I didn't know you did this too." Oh, hey, Josie, that's for me. So, fun fact, you guys, I'm also a yoga teacher. So, when it's not a pandemic, I actually teach around the country. I've taught at the Texas Yoga Conference in Houston, and I teach everywhere from the LA Film Festival to the Chelsea Film Festival, the Well Summit in Brooklyn. I do it all, and I teach in Boston. So Josie, it's so great to have you. And there are so few of us yogi and mystery lovers. So great to have you, girl. Thanks for coming. So Taylor, let's talk about some of the devices that you used in this book. As you said, multiple points of view and an unreliable narrator, which you could have biffed it, but you didn't. And as a writer, as you said so rightly, you could easily shoot yourself in the foot, something that a certain marksman in the book a shot that they would never shoot themselves in the foot, wink. But I actually have tried the unreliable narrator, and I just ended up sounding confused. Like I didn't know what was going on. So it's really, which I didn't. So it's really hard to have that, to play with that and stay in control of the story, which you do, as Lena, mourning the loss of her twin sister, convinced that it couldn't have been suicide, as everyone is suggesting. It must have been murder. She's going to unravel that. We're not sure if she's just so grief-stricken she can't see straight, as we all would be, or whether she's truly right. And there's some interesting twin moments. I know I'm fascinated with twins. I always wished I was one. Taylor, why a twin?
So I'm not a twin myself. My mom is a twin though, so identical. My aunt and my mom. And so I'd always just thought twins were a really neat thing to explore in a story. And especially, in this kind of structure, it seemed like a really good match where, we have two stories kind of unfolding parallel, one living twin, one dead twin. And it really stuck out to me. And I can't remember at what point in the process, I decided on that, but it felt really natural, and I never, ever questioned that. I mean, I question everything else that I do all the time, but that was one thing that I didn't actually question, that just felt right for the story. And I know, there are some thoughts out there that there's kind of a supernatural connection. I remember when I was really, really young, my extended family, we would always go out to the beach. And then one year we just didn't. And I was very young, like 5 or 6. But I remember asking why we didn't go this year. And it turned out it was because both my mom and her twin sister had both had a bad dream or a bad feeling, I can't remember which, about the drive there, because it's a long drive. It's 4 hours. And so they both kind of just agreed, okay, we'll reschedule this. We won't do it this week. And that always kind of stuck with me.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So I always wanted to have, let's call that, this just popped in there. Let's call that twin tuition.
Yes.
I'm a dark. But I always wanted to have those cool twin moments. And there's a moment where Lena, trying to unravel this mystery on her and telling her blog fans that she's going to be doing this, pulls onto the bridge with the cop who found her sister's body at the bottom. And he tells her that she says, "Where on the bridge, did you find my sister's car?" Which she is now driving. And he says, "Well, actually, exactly where you happened to park it." And she's like, "It's just a coincidence." But we're all like, "No, it's twin tuition." So I love those really cool and very relatable moments, and also how you have, the cop saying, "Oh, you look just like her," which I'm sure twins hear every time, every day. Probably they're probably like, "Duh, I don't want to hear this anymore."
Think of it. Like I think I would.
It would, but it's you can't help it because you're like, "This is so cool, a person who looks just like you." Now, Taylor, this book is earning incredible praise. So, Publishers Weekly raves Adams follows his 2019 No Exit with another dazzling thriller. Wow, dazzling. I mean, that's very high praise. And again, you are dazzling us with it. AJ Finn, the #1 New York Times bestselling author, raves that the book is swift, sharp, and relentless.
I think that was No Exit. Sorry. Yeah, that one was for No Exit. But
Okay, well, you know what? You're dazzling us again, as Publishers Weekly says, with another swift and sharp book. You also got an incredible write-up in the Washington Post. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
They raved that your fourth standalone thriller moves at about 150 miles per hour until its closing scene, which is still and tender, a novel that's part action flick and part affecting rumination on moral responsibility within families. What an incredible review, first of all, and also what an incredible feat to pull off something that is both propulsive, just burning those pages up, but also that moral responsibility. Tell us why did you want to get that across, and more importantly, how did you get it across without coming across as preachy?
I think, one thing that I just really, as I write more of these kinds of thrillers, which I really love writing, kind of lean, pacey thrillers. I have a lot of fun doing it, but I do also want to kind of grow and make each one its own unique thing and try, writing stories that maybe resonate a little more thematically and just have a little more to them. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely a goal with Hairpin, because it's, on one hand, it's totally an action story. There's a lot of action and gunfights and murder and all of that. Everything that you would expect from, a thriller that takes place on a bridge with bad guys. But at the same time, it's also about loss, and it's about the difficulty of processing loss and dealing with difficult truths that affect how you can or should remember somebody. And the multiple points of view really allowed me to, like we've got Lena's story, we've got Cambry's story, and then we've also got the blog, which is kind of sprinkled throughout, also, written by Lena. And that gives us kind of a direct line into, her grief, her determination, her sense of humor a little bit, and then also how much this mission toward the end, we start to see like the full picture of how much it's really wrecking her, and how, she's obviously just brilliant throughout the whole book. She's thought of everything. The only outcome she hasn't planned for is honestly surviving this encounter. Like, she's thought of everything else. And that's kind of that's a tough thing that she kind of has to face in herself, is just how much worse this loss has affected her even than she is willing to admit at first. So there's definitely and I think that's one of the fun things with a really contained thriller where you've only got like 3 or 4 characters. Like, you really have time to dig into them. And when your story basically takes place on a bridge, you can't escalate to, there's nowhere else you can escalate it to. You can't take it off to space for a big final battle. Like, it has to stay put, and you have to use everything that, you use in the final act has to also be there in the first act, just maybe a little hidden. And so it forces you to, as a writer, it forces me to really dig into the characters instead of just adding more action.
Oh, I love that. I hadn't thought about how the contained, very fraught, dangerous setting of a bridge would actually force you to contain the story, which allows you to go deeper. That's such a fascinating way to look at it. And it's so true. Thanks for that behind the scenes glimpse. Andrea would like to know, Taylor, what books are you recommending, and do you read thrillers yourself?
Oh, I definitely do. I think I went through a phase where I probably where I only read thrillers because I was like, I'm a thriller writer, so I should just read any thriller I can. And that was really bad for me, because there is so much other really good stuff out there that I wouldn't know to even look for if I only stayed in thriller land. So Book of the Month has actually been a really great resource for just like recommending stuff that I wouldn't have known to look for, but then would just absolutely love. Like a recent book from Book of the Month, I guess it's not that recent, but I still talk about it because it made a mark on me. Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Just funny and just it's perfect. I love that book. And I'm reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir and loving it. It is the science is so far above my head, but it's so cool. I love The Martian as well. So it's just really a fun sci-fi, very smart story. And I'm trying to think of what.
Did you say Project Hail Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. I haven't heard of that one, so I'm adding all of these to my TBR list.
Yeah, if you love The Martian, you will love Project Hail Mary too. So far, like they're like on the same level. I love them both. I'm trying to think of what else too. Yeah, I'm trying to though, like, to answer the question, I'm trying to expose myself to more than just thrillers. But that said, I love thrillers. My all-time, I can't say all-time favorite, but I think the most influential thriller I ever read, and that like it made the biggest of an influence on me, is Dean Koontz's Intensity, which is a very tightly focused, rapid fire, very small scale thriller. And if you haven't read it, I totally recommend it. I remember I was way too young when I read it for the first time, but it was just like a revelation to me of like, oh, you can write a thriller and it can only have a few characters. Like, you're allowed to do that, and it was just a huge learning process or influence to me.
Very cool. And one more time, what's the title?
Intensity by Dean Koontz.
Intensity by Dean Koontz. So Dean was actually on the show. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm honestly shocked it was never made in, or maybe it was. I think it might have been made into a TV movie. But either way, just fabulous book. Sorry to interrupt.
No. So Dean was actually on the show in October, and he is amazing. He's so brilliant and so thoughtful about the craft of writing, and also so honest about the impact that books have had on his life. So he shared with us that he grew up in a really tough home, with a really tough dad, actually abusive, and books were his escape and his salvation, and really helped him to get out of that situation, helped him to survive that situation. And I got teary during the show because he was so honest about the importance that books have played for us in his life. And we've all had that in different ways, the transformative effect that books have made for us. And my God, he is, so incredibly successful. Over 500 million books sold. He's a legend, and yet he's so humble and so kind and so good. And also he doesn't let himself get out of the seat. He gets in the seat at 7 a.m. and he stays till 5 p.m. And nice. He's like, and he doesn't eat any carbs because he said carbs slow you down. So he has a cheese stick and like a hard-boiled egg. In those 10 hours, I was like, Dean, I've missed like 4 meals. But he's so amazing. So that's really cool that Intensity has made such a difference in your life. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Andrea, thanks for the great questions. Let us know what other questions y'all have, and I will get them right over to Dean. Right over to Taylor, Dean has made such an impact on his life. So Taylor, Book Page raved that Hairpin Bridge reads like a Stephen King novel. Talk about another legend. Saying that it is reminiscent of Misery and how the characters shape shift as the narrative progresses. And I loved both that review, and I loved how you did that. So we start out feeling really bad for sweet little Lena, and of course we do because her heart is broken. But then we know Lena's going to be okay. Lena's going to take care of herself. Leaving the Book Page went on to say, leaving the reader wondering who is more dangerous, and more importantly, which one will prevail. I was wondering myself. I wasn't sure. So incredibly high praise there to be likened to Stephen King and Misery. Wow. Were you writing in that? Were you thinking of that when you were writing it, or you finished the book and were like, oh my God, I never even thought it would be like this? I love Misery. That's one of my all-time favorites. I never had that comparison like ever in my mind. I think the main thing that was kind of driving, when I was forming the story of Hairpin was, when you have basically a confrontation like that, and you've got like a kind of a search for the truth, it's really interesting to play with the sort of like the power dynamics of those two characters, because it makes a battle of wills between those two people. And so it's
fun and something that I, had wanted to try with No Exit and didn't really get a chance to. I wanted to try and, play with the reader's expectations a little bit too, as the characters, because, they also underestimate each other and misjudge each other, and just kind of allow the characters to surprise the reader a little bit, and they hopefully surprise the reader. They definitely surprise each other. Because and I like how you mentioned that, because like in the first quarter, you really think, okay, Lena is in serious trouble, and what the hell is she doing? This is very dumb. And then you realize, oh, never mind, maybe Papa's in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Because I kept thinking, oh my God, don't go out on that bridge by yourself. There's no cell phone reception where your sister died. I mean, and you realize how much she knew about it, and you're like, oh my God, she's so grief stricken, she can't think straight. This is going to be the end of Lena. So thank you for that tasty twist. Speaking of twists, in the acknowledgments, okay, first of all, I just want to know from our friends watching, who else reads the acknowledgments, and who else reads the acknowledgments first? I read the acknowledgments every single time, and I often read them first. And in the acknowledgments, Taylor, you say thank you to Jacqueline for putting up with all my quirks and 1,000-yard stares throughout the writing process, for urging me to slow the pace down from time to time, and for suggesting a story idea that quite possibly saved this novel. Taylor, what's the story idea that saved this novel?
That is a great question. Okay, so I will try to answer this in a way that makes sense, but also doesn't spoil anything.
Okay.
So at the very, very end, there is a certain side character in a well.
Yes.
And the relationship between the sister and that side character in the finished story, it's a really tragic relationship that one of the sisters has to that character. In the first, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many times I rewrote this darn thing, earlier, it was just another victim. There was no connection there. And it really didn't work, because there was like that chain of cause and effect was not there. Ooh. Because it's part of for how we feel about one of those sisters, we kind of go on a roller coaster with Lena, and we're honestly kind of appalled at one point by what we learned. And then, to bring it back to kind of this redemptive moment, it just does not work if there's no cause and effect there. And that was the thing that I was just struggling with, because, in the story as it currently is, it makes sense because she is a direct part of why somebody ended up in a well. Yes,
indeed.
And before it didn't have that. So Jacqueline totally saved the book.
So did she read it and she just was like divine inspiration, or was it in dialogue? I mean, how did she come up with this story saving idea?
It was kind of like because and I had always, I was like, something is not working. Like what is wrong with this ending? How do we fix this? And then she was like, well, I think there needs to be a connection there. Like, what if, and then the other challenge there was a lot of time has to pass between death and then Lena actually confronting, the cop on that bridge. And so then we had to think, okay, like, what is a way for a lot of time to pass, but there still to be a connection between Cambry and this character in a well. This probably doesn't make any sense to anybody who hasn't read the book, but
but now, okay, y'all, when you read when you get to that last scene, now you're gonna know that Jacqueline proposed the story saving connection.
Yes.
And Taylor, was there anything that Jacqueline or your editor or others suggested where you were, where they were like, have you ever considered a robot? And you were like, no robot. I mean, was there anything that you just were like, absolutely not, hard no?
Let's see. No, everything, like, the editing process was actually, by the time it got to my editor, all the changes we did, they're all really great changes. They were all very subtle. They were mostly just kind of a matter of delivering the information a little differently. Like, I think one of the best ones that she suggested that we did was the best one was, again, the ending. The ending was originally a lot more abrupt in the first versions that I tried writing. And the editor was like, there needs to be a sense of touch. Like if this was a movie, we would end it with an abrupt sound, with, because it originally ended with a sound of there's somebody in here.
Yeah.
The ramifications of, okay, I get it. That's the twist. And it ended just right there. And my editor was like, that would work in a movie, but in a book, especially in a book as violent and emotionally grueling as this one, that there needs to be like what she used was a sense of touch. Like you need to kind of complete the moment and give the reader the moment that the whole book has kind of been, teasing, a moment of catharsis and just finding sense in just an awful, all around awful situation and awful ramifications to an awful situation. And so it's like a half a page or a 1 page. It's a very, very short epilogue. You'll know it when you see it. But that was also my editor saying, like, give us just a teeny bit more, because she was so right. And now that I look at the book, I can't imagine it being as it originally was, where it's just like it chainsaws off at the end.
Chainsaws off. I love it.
Yeah, it's done.
That's so cool. And I like that she said a sense of touch, and then you went back and you sort of got in there a little more deeply. That's really cool. Thank you for giving us the scoop, Taylor. All right, fam, we got 5 minutes left. So what questions do you have for Taylor? We have just a few more. I think we could probably take 2 or 3. So get them going. This is your chance to ask Taylor anything. Taylor, I'm going to start by saying your last book is now going to become a movie. Give us the scoop on that.
Yeah, I am super excited. So it is currently filming, according to IMDb. I don't know what I can say, what I'm allowed to say, but I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the cast to get announced whenever that happens. I'm not allowed to talk, but about that. But I think it's in really, really good hands too, and I think that's a really, important feeling to have as the creator of the work that is being adapted. Because I got to read the screenplay, and they did a bang up job on the script. It is a great script. It is a great director. The director is Damien Power. He did an Australian horror film called Killing Ground, which, if you like just nerve-shreddingly, like just anxiety-inducing horror, psychological horror, because it's not really gory, even though it feels gory. It's incredibly just terrifying movie, but it's also very elegant because it doesn't really show you anything. It leaves you to imagine things, which is, a sense of restraint that I think, I really admire in horror and suspense, and something that I've, as I learn more and keep writing, I want to try and get better at, because, violence can get really numbing, and it can be really distasteful, and it's distasteful to write sometimes. And sometimes it's way more effective for what you're trying to do to not show anything. And
yes,
I definitely, that's something that I need to get better at, because my books tend to be pretty violent, and I don't always know if they need to be. I think it's a matter of me, going for the most obvious choice. And that's definitely an area of growth for me, I think.
I love that. And it's so true, because I think what you don't see is almost scarier. And actually, same for sex scenes. What you don't see is almost sexier. Right. It's the unknown that lets our imaginations fill in those blanks, that creates those moments for us. So, I think it's the scariest when you're thinking, oh my God, did I just hear a noise outside, and you don't know whether it's an intruder, and it's not knowing that's the most terrifying. And so I absolutely love that you're thinking about that and starting to play with that, explore that more. How fascinating. That's really, really cool. Oh, Margaret saying, just dropping in, appreciating Taylor's backdrop, giving me Southern porch vibes. Wait a minute, Margaret, this is your fellow Pacific Northwester here. Yeah. Margaret joining us also from the Pacific Northwest. Taylor is in Seattle, Margaret. So you got your fellow Pac Wester there.
Hopefully you did okay in that heat wave. That was a rough weekend.
Yeah, oh my God, rough weekend. Gail saying, thank you, Sarah and Taylor. I've enjoyed both of these interviews. Gail, thanks so much for joining us for both. So great to have you as always. Really appreciate you having your presence. Margaret, thank you. Oh, Margaret saying, and you're not melting yet? By the end of the interview, Taylor's just like a puddle of melted ice cream. He just
Pretty much, yeah.
He's keeled over. And Taylor, one thing that I really appreciated was one of your reviews, and I'm blanking on which one, said that, oh, here, it was shelf awareness, that you displayed fierce skills at meting out the tension that begins slowly but increases as the danger becomes real. Does meeting it out, just parsing it out, in little tiny bite-sized portions, not little tiny, but big delicious bursts of flavor, does that come naturally to you, or were you like, oh, too much up front and now I gotta ration it out?
It's definitely like, it's kind of like a process of almost trial and error, because I rewrite so much and I enjoy rewriting. Like, it's fun to just keep kind of refining the story and just, just stabs at it and rearranging the information. Cause yeah, it's all just about the order of information. And yeah, you can give too much away up front. You can give not enough away and then just end up with a very sluggish first part. So yeah, it was definitely a matter of trial and error and moving information around and moving reveals around, and then, moving things back where I'm like, okay, I feel like we've jumped to the cop's point of view too soon because it's more effective for him to be a little unknown up until this point. Yeah. So, I mean, I wish I could say, yeah, I got it right the first time on the first draft and it's just what I do. But no, it was tons and tons of work. And I would definitely describe it as like a trial and error process of like, I try it and then, I look at it the next day and I go, okay, maybe I need to try it differently.
Okay, this is giving me heart because that is not a strong suit of mine. So I appreciate that insight and that honesty. Thank you. Gail is saying, Taylor, you sent some of the heat to the Northeast. We don't like that. Take your heat back, sir. Take your heat back. Yeah, we don't like that over here, Gail, right? I love it. Yeah, Taylor, you've gotten some just absolutely incredible reviews. I mean, it's just really, it must be, as a writer, it must be so wonderfully validating to see your work put out there and understood exactly as you wish it to be. What's that been like for you?
Really, I mean, honestly, it still doesn't quite feel real. And I think part of it too is I'm always just thinking about the next thing and thinking, okay, this one worked. Now I've got to do it again or do something again. So I think it's mostly just a matter of kind of keeping my eye on the ball. But yeah, the reviews have just been, it's amazing to see that. And it's amazing to see writers, that I really like, to see that they like my stuff like that. Every single one of those has just made my day. And, when I remember when I got one of the blurbs, I think I was at the dentist and like I was reading my phone while I was at in the dentist. And I was like, oh, excellent. I have a reason to survive this. It was Publishers Weekly. I remember it was the starred review for Publishers Weekly. And I was like, oh, yes. Okay, I'm totally going to survive this dentist trip now.
You're like, I will get myself out of this chair only now because of this amazing review. I love it. Yeah, exactly. Because we all need something to look forward to at the dentist. So there you are with your mouth wide open. Oh, but the phone in your hand, just getting it's the happiest Taylor's ever been at the dentist.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, Taylor, I went to Margaret is saying #author life. You're in the chair at the dentist staring at your phone. They're saying and you're saying Great. A starred review from Publishers Weekly. Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the show. Any parting thoughts from you? What do you want us to leave with? Leave your pages with? What do you want us to feel, experience, think, learn? Tell us.
I mean, I guess it's kind of different for every book, but for this one, I wanted to write both something that was really propulsive and action-packed, but also something that kind of sticks with you maybe in a way that No Exit didn't necessarily. And write something just with a little more, it's about loss, it's about pain, it's about, reconciling really tough things. And that was kind of this is definitely the darkest book I've ever written, Hairpin Bridge. I think it's probably going to be the darkest book that I have written for some time. It's going to be a little more not upbeat, because it's also a thriller and hopefully scary, but less tough subject matter, because Hairpin is a tough book.
In the words of Yoda, Taylor's going to come back to the light side. He's going to step away from the dark side. He's going to come back to the light side, but still keep us on the edge of our seats with his propulsive page turning thrill ride. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing with us. Everybody, I just dropped the link in the comments. Grab your copy of the book today, and you can get it through A Murder by the Book, our favorite bookstore. And grab this fabulous book. Taylor, when your next book is out, you got to come back and give us the scoop on that one.
Absolutely. I'm having a ton of fun with my next one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm already ready for the next fun one. Well, this will be fantastic. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us, and I will see you at 4 p.m. with Emily Richards. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Taylor.